What's going on, everyone? Thanks for clicking on this video. I'm back as promised with more information on the Wicked Freedom e-bike. Very powerful e-bike with some serious specs. And today, hopefully, I'm going to download as much information as I can to you about this bike. We'll go over all the specs, all the components. I'll show you performance footage. And then at the end, I'll try to tell you a few things you might need to know if you're going to consider buying the Wicked Freedom. So let's get started. All right, everyone, we're looking at the Wicked Freedom from Wicked e-bikes. And just so you know, this bike is here courtesy of Wicked. I did not purchase this bike. They sent me this so I could do a review video and put some information out there for all of you to use. Hopefully help you decide if this is a bike you want to consider or not. First things first, let's talk about the frames and the colors. You got two different options for the frame. This is the Wicked Freedom, which is a step over and dual suspension. They also have the Wicked Cruiser bike, which is a step through and does not have the full suspension. It only has front suspension forks, no rear suspension on that. Just hard to do when you've got a step through bike. So those are your two frame choices. And then either one of those frame choices you can get in two different colors. They come in black and blue. Now, I'll also tell you that this is a prototype bike. This is not the finished product that's going to be shipping out to customers. There's a couple minor differences. It's basically what you're going to get, but there are a few things I wanted to point out that are different on this prototype bike. The first is the headlight. You're going to have the same headlight, it's just going to be brighter. This is a 60 lux, they're going to have 100 on the production bikes that come out. Another difference is the chainring. This is a 48 tooth, and the production are going to have a 52. And the last difference is the graphics. So this bike basically has stickers on there that are going to show what the graphics are going to look like. The production models will have the graphics laid under the paint, so they'll be much more durable. All right, let me hit you with some fast facts now, and then we'll start walking through the bike a little bit. So fast facts, the seat height, minimum seat height is 34 inches. The handlebar, from the ground to the top of this handlebar, I mean, it's got BMX style bars on it. It's really tall. It's 48 inches. That's 4 feet off the ground. Very tall handlebars on this bike. The width of the handlebar is 29 inches. Payload capacity, 300-pound rider and 50 pounds of cargo. The bike itself weighs 78 pounds, which is right on par with most fat tire e-bikes now. Now that you know some quick specs, let's start going through this bike a little bit. First thing I want to point out is when you look at the pictures online, most of the pictures don't have fenders and a rack shown on the bike, but that is a standard feature. You do get rack and fenders on the Cruiser and also the Freedom models. So you get these black plastic wraparound fenders, front and back, and also the rear cargo rack. So those are standard features on both of the models. This bike is priced at $19.99, which is pretty crazy when you consider some of the specs that this thing has. And we're going to get into that. Very, very powerful bike. You can tell that the money was spent in performance on this bike. So if you're a performance-oriented person looking for a incredibly powerful e-bike, you're in the right spot. But let's start up front here, take a look at the wheel and tire package. So they're 26x4 fat tires. You can see the tread pattern there. These are Chainring tires. They say Big Daddy on them. And I know Wicked's trying to get that removed for the production models. I do not know if they were successful or not, so your tires may also say Big Daddy on them. And you've got hydraulic brakes on this bike. They're 180 millimeter disc, full hydraulic brakes on there. They are Star Union is the brand, Star Union. I like them. I've had Star Union brakes before. They work really well. These worked really well. No complaints there at all about the brakes. Also note that the front wheel is not a through axle, it's a quick release front wheel. So if you have any desire to pop the front wheel off and on a lot, it'll be easy to do with the quick release. You do have a front suspension fork on this bike. It's a Mozo fork, and it's not an air fork, not a hydraulic fork. It's more of a spring fork. You know, you've got the adjustment here, which is basically just off and on. You just hear it thud into place. It's either free to spring or it's locked in place. Honestly, it's probably one of the more budget parts on the bike, but it works. I mean, it works just fine. I don't really have any issue with it. I mean, you get front suspension. It's always something I guess you could upgrade in the future if you wanted to, but I didn't have any issue with this fork. It's pretty common that I see this on e-bikes. It's used a lot. And here's a look at the headlight. Comes on the Wicked Freedom. 60 lux on this prototype model. The production model is going to have 100 lux, so even brighter than this, which is surprising because this was perfectly adequate. I did ride this bike at night. It illuminates the path in front of you very well. I can throw up some pictures so you can see the beam pattern you get, but it was very bright. I don't even think you really need a brighter one, but they're putting a brighter one on, so that's great. If you're a nighttime rider, you shouldn't have any issue with this headlight. At the front here, you get a look at the cable management going on, and I mean, they did a pretty good job. They're wrapped up about as neat as you can. I mean, e-bikes just have a lot of wires, so you can only do so much. They've got them tied here pretty nicely and routed nicely, not getting caught on anything. Plenty of slack here for these nice tall handlebars. I love the tall BMX handlebars. Almost every bike I get, I end up putting a stem riser on it or different handlebars to get it up in the air higher, because I like to ride in more of an upright position. So if you're like me, you want to be nice and tall and not have that aggressive leaned over riding style, then you're going to love this. They, like I said, they are 48 inches off the ground. They're very tall, and there's plenty of room up here to add extra gadgets if you want to put phone mounts or whatever you need to clip on. A lot of extra room on these bars. So you've got rubber grips. These ones are a little banged up because this is, like I said, the prototype bike. It's got probably 500 miles on it, so they're a little banged up. But these are rubber grips, palm rest. They are friction grips, but I've had these on other bikes too. They really lock into place. You cannot turn these. They are bear to get them off if you ever want to remove them. They're not my favorite grips, honestly. I just I like the ones with the locking rings because I'm constantly changing stuff. I like being able to pop them off and on. These are really tough to get off and on. They grip so grippy, but they're fine. I didn't have any issue with them while riding. Just not my favorite grip, but I can look past that. Minor things like that. Touch points are easy to change. You know, grips or seat. Those are easy to swap out, so I wouldn't worry about that. Twist throttle, fantastic. Yes, I don't understand thumbs. I'm not a twist throttle guy, so I like the twist throttle on this. 7-speed shifter that's seen on a lot of bikes. That's pretty standard. So you got 7 mechanical gears. Let's take a look at your display screen. Turn it on for you. It's the LCD 8H display. I like this display a lot. It's what I use on my personal bike. Gives you a lot of information. You got the battery voltage, pedal assist, your speedometer. It even gives you the ambient temperature. So it's 57 outside right now. See, I've got 508 miles on this bike so far. And you get a watt meter right here on below the pedal assist as well. So you can see how many watts the bike is outputting, and this baby outputs a lot, I'll tell you that. Over 2,000. I've seen it climb as high as, I think, 2,070 watts. So a crazy amount of power coming out of this bike. Another reason I like this display screen is it's easy to program. So you gotta turn it off to show you. But so when you turn the screen on, within 5 seconds you hit the up and down together, and it'll take you to the settings, and it's so easy to program. You just have to look up, you know, what the P and C codes mean, but you just toggle through and select and change. It's one of the easiest display screens there is as far as programming. You can set your, you know, mile per hour. You can make this a class 2 or class 3. You can change the setting in here to allow a slow start, so it has a very gradual takeoff, or you can have it hard hitting right off the line. I of course have it on the hard hitting. That's C5. Set that to 10 and you get the max right off the line. You set it to like 0. It's very tame off the line. You still get full power eventually. It's just a slower lead into it. So great screen. I'll leave it at that. We can do a whole separate video on programming if you want to know all the settings, but there's a lot of stuff in here you can change. I like the screen a lot. And not a whole lot going on this side of the handlebars, just your bell and your buttons for the display screen. And we of course added a bar and mirror. I like to be able to see what's going on behind me. What else to talk about this bike? Let's talk about some of the performance stuff. Let's get into that because that's where the money was spent on this bike, I feel. 60 volt battery system. 60 volt, 20 amp hour. That's pretty crazy. I don't think I've ever seen another bike under 2,000 bucks that has a 60 volt battery. 20 amp hour. I haven't done a range test yet, but I will on this bike, and we'll do a different video on that. The battery pops out the side of the bike, which I prefer actually, instead of them dropping down here in the front wheel. So it's integrated into the frame a little bit. It does seat down into the frame, and it pops out that side. There's a key slot on the other side, and you just come out here. It sticks out a little bit on this side. Let me get a shot here. I don't know if you can see it in the light, but it hangs out maybe like ½ inch because this is a big old battery pack. You just key in here and release it. Drops out the side. I prefer the side release like that. And yeah, like I said, I don't know of any other bike with the 60 volt system on it. They might be one of the first to do that for an under $2,000 e-bike. Right here on the side, this is your charging port and also a USB connection. There is not a USB on the display screen, at least on this prototype. I don't know if that was added for production or not, but you do have a USB here on the side of the battery if you need it. While we're right here, you can take a good look at the rear suspension. K-speed is the shock there. It's an adjustable rear suspension, so you can dial it up and down a little bit. I'm 180 pounds. It felt a little stiff for me. I haven't really monkeyed with it too much to see if I can get it softer and how much softer, but you do notice it, you do feel it. I'm glad it's there. You really can't add rear suspension after the fact You know, suspension seat posts just aren't the same as having a bike with a dual suspension like this. And this is a component it's easy to change. I've changed them before. I've added different shocks onto bikes with full suspension. You just pop out this bolt and swap in whatever shock you want in there. So that's an easy change. If you don't like this one, I didn't have any trouble with it. Like I said, you feel it working, you know it's there. And hiding right here behind your rear suspension is the controller. Inside this box is a 40 amp controller. That's insane. Most e-bikes that I test out have a 22 amp controller. Every once in a while you might find a controller over 30, but I mean a 40 amp controller, that's crazy. You're getting pretty much double what most of the other bikes at this price point are giving you. And that's what translates into a lot more power in this system. 60 volt battery, 40 amp controller. I mean, that's 2,400 watts that's going into the motor. And like I said, there's like 85% efficient or whatever. So coming out of there is over 2,000 watts. This is a very powerful e-bike. Don't take it lightly. It's got a lot of power, but this is a big controller box on the back of there. So I know some people aren't gonna like that. Other people won't care. And here's what I gotta say about that. I don't mind it, because when you're dealing with the performance of this bike like this, people that are gonna buy this bike, I think, are looking for that power. They might want to do modifications and monkey with things, and having the controller accessible is a big plus. If it's inside the frame, if everything's integrated and hidden inside the frame, like a lot of bikes are going to now, they look real sleek and the battery's inside and the controller's inside and all the wiring's hidden, they're tougher to work on because you can't access the stuff. So I don't mind this at all, and I'm really pleased that it's a 40 amp controller. That's huge. That's crazy. Dropping down to the chainring here, this is a 48 on this bike, but the production bikes that are going to ship out come with a 52 tooth. That should be plenty of pedal for going at those higher speeds. And it has a double-sided plastic chain guard on there, if you're curious. Sliding to the back here. Oh, another thing I forgot to note. The production models will have a chain slap guard here to protect your paint job. This one doesn't have it. And the gears on the back, I believe, are 1428. If I'm wrong, I'll put it on the screen, but I believe that's what's right there. And it's a Shimano 20 derailleur. Also at the back of the bike, you've got your tail light right here. It is a tail light. It is not a brake light. Maybe they'll add that feature in the future, but for right now, it just functions as a taillight. Comes on when you turn on the headlights and just stays on a steady red. No brake light feature in that yet. Also need to give you a close-up of the seat here so you can see what seat comes on the bike. It's actually really soft. It's pretty wide, pretty flat, pretty soft. There's no springs or anything in it, but the suspension helps with the comfort. So this is, you know, I'm not gonna really rush to change this. It's pretty nice, actually. It's not often I get a bike seat on a bike that I like. I almost always change it out and put a softer, wider, fatter saddle on there. I'm about comfort when I ride. And this one's not bad. I'll probably just leave this for now. Very soft, squishy. And of course, one final thing that we can't forget about is the rear hub motor. It's a 1,000 watt hub motor, peaks at over 2,000 watts. It does have metal gears inside. They might be like nylon in the center, metal on the outside. I'm not sure what they look like, but they have the metal planetary gears there to reinforce, you know, the motor, make it stronger, because you're putting a lot of power through this thing. This thing's big. It's a big motor hiding in there, and this thing is really got some speed and it's really got some power. It pulls hard off the line. It's got some top end speed on it. It's pretty easy. Again, I weigh 180 pounds. It's pretty easy for me to take this thing out on flat level ground and go about 36 miles an hour. It does that with ease, 36 miles an hour. You can get it up to 37, 38-ish if you're in a full tuck, if you have a slight downhill. I tested it was raining a little bit and I still was able to hit 38 miles an hour on a level to very slight downgrade. 38 miles an hour on downhill. Look out, this thing will go over 40 easily. Great on the hill climbs. Let's just take a look at some of the performance footage I took and let the bike speak for itself. Hill climb test. We start right here, throttle only, and there's a spot at the top of the hill where I cut the timer and we see how fast they go compared to the rest. I'm usually testing 750 watt bikes, This bike's gonna be way faster. The fastest ones out of the 750 bunch, they usually do this around 22 seconds flat. I'm predicting this will go way faster than that. Let's see how strong it really is. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. It's strong. I mean, I can feel it already. We're already at almost 20 miles an hour. Really hard pull up the hill. And time. That was pretty darn quick. It's got a lot of torque. There's just no way around it. It's got a ton of torque in this bike. You can see it jolt when it starts pulling. It really kicks in. That throttle just really kicks in and goes, especially on pedal assist 5 too. Wow. All right, it's time to try our steeper hill climb test over here. This short, steep little grassy hill. The 750 watt e-bikes, they can't make this hill throttle only. I've never had one make it yet. I usually back all the way up, put their back wheel in the woods here and give them a run at it, and they never make it. They fail halfway up the hill, maybe 3/4, but I'm not even gonna give this bike a run at the hill. We're really gonna test the torque. Let's start right here at the base of the hill, just crank the throttle and see if it's got the torque to climb it. Ready? Here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. Yep, it did it. With no run at the hill at all. Still powered through. That's pretty impressive. If you've got about 1500 watts or more, you can usually make that short little hill throttle only. But man, the 750 watts, they just can't do it. But this bike did it, even without the run at the hill. That's pretty good. All right, we're gonna try a more extreme hill climb right here. This is like the steepest little hill I can find. I'll take a reading of what the percent grade is on this hill, but I'm gonna get a little bit of a run at it, because I know it doesn't come through on camera, but man, is that a steep hill. Let's just throttle only, take a run at it. Oh, that was too easy. But that was so, wow. It did that better than the Citizen bike did. Holy cow. My Citizen bike has dual motors, and the motors were just, clawing and digging the whole way up. I'm not gonna get quite as big of a run at this. Let's give it I don't know, like right here, a 15-20 foot run at this hill, throttle only. I'm not gonna pedal unless it starts like failing. Here we go. I'm gonna help it on the last 2 pedals because I don't want to break the motor. But it probably would have made it. I just don't want to kill it. You're not supposed to. Don't do this to your bike. I do this to test these and to show you guys. Don't do this to your bike. This is torturous on a bike. But this thing, no problem climbing very steep hills, especially if you're gonna help it. I'm doing a lot of these throttle only. If you're gonna pedal, I mean, I don't think there's really anything that this bike couldn't tackle. Try not to get yelled at by the construction people. But yeah, that's like as tall as a house. A mound of dirt as tall as a house? That has me wondering what's at the top of it. Holy cow, it made it. I don't want to go flying over the other edge, but it just made that hill climb. All right, I gotta get out of here before I get yelled at. Straight up that mud hill. All right, let's see what kind of speed she'll do here on the way out of town. I think we got a little bit of a downhill here. Oh yeah, nice downhill. I wasn't even in like a full tuck. I bet you this thing will, I mean, I've seen it on a steeper downhill hit 42. So you've got some crazy speed in this thing. Craziness. That was downhill. That wasn't flat. That was downhill, but still. How many e-bikes out there just go 40 like that? Crazy. Well, as you can see, this bike has got some serious on-road speed and power, but it's just as much fun off-road. Let's go off-road right here. And it's got so much torque and power that you can just kind of ride it like a little dirt bike. You don't have to pedal, you know, when you're going through stuff like this. I'm just basically in a field. You can tell something drove through here once, but I'm in tall grass. This grass is like a foot tall. It's wet because it's raining today. I'm not pedaling. I'm just throttling up this hill through this foot tall wet grass. I'm completely lost in the track here. There we go, this way. But yeah, it's like a miniature off-road dirt bike. You just plow through everything. The only other bike I can do this with is my custom-built Citizen bike. That bike has got the torque and power to do this just like this bike does, but no other bike really is gonna breeze through this easily. Where does this go? I have no idea where I'm going. Go somewhere. There's somebody drove through here. Let's find out. Another benefit of the suspension here. Suspension's okay. It's not like super amazing, but having the rear suspension is, you can't mimic it with a suspension seat post. All right, this is an uphill, still through the thick grass. Ooh. Wow, this thing's just digging through. Okay, that's probably far enough because I don't know where I am. I'm just in the middle of the woods here, and this could be private property. I don't want to get in trouble. I'm gonna get out and go back the way I came, but just bulldozing through this. I'm not on any kind of path now. I gotta be careful here. I don't hit any giant holes or anything. Oh gosh, where was that trail I was on? Okay, so it's up to my knees. Okay, all right, let's get out of here. But it's it's a pretty good off-road beast as well. I've been having a lot of fun on this bike. There's just so much power that it's just so much fun. This is a bike for the power crowd. Most people don't need this on the street. It's overkill. Well, as you can see, speed and power, that's where this bike shines. That is the standout feature of the Wicked Freedom. It's just that powertrain. You've got tons and tons of power at the twist of your hand. And I said before in the beginning too, you can program it so it's tamer. I mean, you can have a slow start off the line. You don't have to make it this unruly beast that I did. I maxed out everything because that's what I think people are going to want to know. What is the top thing that it's capable of? But you can tune it down. You can make it only go 20 miles an hour and make it a perfectly legal class 2 bike, 20 mile an hour with a slow start. It'll feel like pretty much any other e-bike. Or you can unlock it and unleash it and kind of go a little crazy with it if you want. All right, so what do you need to know if you're going to consider buying the Wicked Freedom? First thing I'll say to you is, remember, it's a big bike. It's a 26x4 fat tire bike. So, I mean, those tires from ground to top are 29 inches. These bikes are big, they're heavy. As far as like me getting on the bike, I'm fine doing that because I'm 6 feet tall. There's pretty much not a bike out there I can't get on pretty easily. You put someone like my wife on this bike who's 5'3", it's kind of a struggle for her. It's a big bike for her to handle and she's not comfortable on it. So take into consideration your size, your stature, how much weight you can lift. Is this bike going to be too big for you or not? Definitely add that to your list of things to consider because I hear that a lot, that people get the bike and it's too big for them and it's too heavy, and that's like the number one thing is it's too heavy. This one again weighs 78 pounds, which is lighter than a lot of the bikes I've been receiving lately. They keep getting heavier and heavier, it seems, the fat bikes. The last couple I had were, I think, close to 90 pounds. So this one's 78. All right, next important thing to know is the power. Do not underestimate the power of this bike. Don't let it get away from you. There was a couple times where I wanted to do really fast acceleration from a stop and I pushed on the pedals hard and hit the throttle and the front wheel came up in the air. That happened to me multiple times. And it can get away from you if you're not watching what you're doing. So respect the power on this bike. Also too, if you're mounting the bike and you accidentally twist that throttle, it's gonna jump like crazy and could really get away from you. So be careful with the power on the bike. And going along with that, you unlock this bike at your own risk. It's going to come to you as a class 2 street legal e-bike. If you unlock it and unleash it and get in trouble with it, that's on you. So unlock at your own risk. All right, next thing to know, let me talk to my modification crowd for a second, the folks that like to monkey around with their e-bike a little bit. This bike is all set up to work in unison, right? This isn't just a regular LCD 8H display screen. This is meant to work with the 60-volt system. Same with the taillight and the headlight. Those are meant to work with the 60-volt system. So before you go swapping and changing stuff out, make sure it's actually going to work with this bike system. And the last thing I'll say is, I've been talking a lot about the power. So powerful, so powerful. You can tame this bike down. You can set the speed limits and you can set the takeoff speeds and everything and make it an easygoing, enjoyable bike to ride. It doesn't have to be a crazy performance beast all the time. So don't let me scare you away from it. If you want that power for doing the hill climbs, you can set it to be a gradual start, and you don't have to go 40 miles an hour on it. You can go 20 miles an hour on it. The screen has that programmability. I love when bikes give you the chance to program in the display and set the bike up custom for the user, and this bike has that. All right, well, that is everything I can think of to tell you about this Wicked Freedom e-bike. If I miss something, put it in the comments. I will do my best to answer it. I'm happy to walk out my garage and take a measurement of something, or answer a question about the bike if you need it. I will link the bike below so you can find it easily. It's just a link. I don't get anything if you buy one. I'm just here to provide you information, and I hope you found this video helpful, informative, at least entertaining. If you did, consider hitting the subscribe button. I'll talk to you all again soon. Thanks.